After the air leaves the larynx and before it enters the mouthpiece, it goes through the oral cavity. In the oral cavity are the teeth. The position of the teeth is something that we can't change, they are fixed. But the one changeable body within the oral cavity is the tongue. And the tongue, for our purposes, is divided into two parts. The front part of the tongue, the edge part of the tongue, which is used for articulation, which we will speak about after, and the back portion of the tongue, which I'm going to refer to as the hump of the tongue. Now, the hump of the tongue, how it is placed within this oral cavity, will have a lot to do with the way the air stream is affected. After having been already affected by the positioning of the vocal cords and going to be further affected by what goes on at the lip on the reed, the last little bit that happens is going to happen by the position of the hump of the tongue. First, we'll refer to a little bit of elementary physics. We have an open body, kind of like a cave, and we have an air entrance and an air exit. The goal here is to have the air leave the exit with the maximum velocity as possible, which is the same as the mouth going into the mouthpiece, and with the minimum amount of dispersion of air, as in the oral cavity. We want the maximum efficiency of air. If you have some kind of disturbing body, called object here, in the middle of this cave area, where would the best position be to achieve this maximum velocity and minimum dispersion? And it would be to place the object directly in the middle of the open body, because then the air is deflected around the disturbing body and recollects with an extra impetus and comes out with the maximum velocity. If this object is raised up to the top part or to the bottom part, the dispersion is more and the velocity is not going to be as much as it is after it recollects around the object. Okay, this object is the hump of the tongue, and this cave is the oral cavity. Okay? Now I want to describe the various positions of the hump part of the tongue by using letters and vowels and consonants, and this diagram of jaws. As you can see, artwork is not one of my fortes, but I think for demonstration purposes you'll get the point of these diagrams showing the position of the tongue. The red is the position of the hump part of the tongue. We use the words, a couple different words here. I'm going to use the word father. If you say father and you exaggerate ah, you get the tongue in a higher position towards the roof of the mouth, towards the soft palate actually, ah, ah. If you say the word law, or, hump part of your tongue is more down at the floor of your mouth. And if you say meat, meat, the E in meat, your tongue is more in this position, which I would call the middle of the oral cavity. The tongue is lightly, the sides of the tongue are lightly touching the molar teeth, the sides of the teeth. This is probably the best position for maximum velocity and minimum dispersion as the object in the cave was above. Now, this doesn't mean that you never could use or ah, or really any part of language. If you go through the alphabet, say g, k, s, ha, pa, wa, all kinds of different sounds, consonants and syllables, you come up with all those different positions. And in a certain sense, when you're playing, all these positions are viable for coloristic expression. But the ones that are most common are going to be the lower tongue, the higher tongue, and the middle. Now, what I'm going to do is give you a few demonstrations of why the E has the best velocity. First of all, I'm going to sing an arpeggio in the various positions, and I want you to hear the difference. Ah, oh, E. Now, E has the most body and the best sound of the three. Another way of demonstrating the maximum velocity of the E position is to place the T before each of these, tor, ta, and T, and watch how a flame is extinguished by the E sound. Ta, tor, T. Now we'll look at the differences in the mouth itself and watch where the position of the tongue is as I pronounce these words. And when you see the E, I'm going to go tongue a few times, and you'll see the space that's created between the tip of the tongue, the edge of the tongue, and the teeth, and that's where the mouthpiece would go. Father, ah, ah. Law, ah, ah, ah. E, E. D, 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 E, E. Da, 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 da. E, D, 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 D. Now I'm going to play some notes, and especially in the high register, I want you to notice the difference between the E position and all the other positions, the difference of sound that I get. Here is lower or higher tongue, not E. Here is E. No E. E. I think you can hear that the E position adds a little bit of sheen, a little bit of shine to the higher notes. Now, I don't want you to get the impression from my talking about high tones before that brightness itself is bad. What I mean by bad brightness means something that is annoyingly brilliant or sharp or piercing. What we're looking for in the high notes is some sort of brightness, as we're looking for a dark low register. I think that the E position is one of the best ways to provide a kind of shine or luster, if you like, to the higher notes. It really is very nice. Now, again, as I said before, all positions are fine, and in the end, for expression, you can use everything you want. But you should try to practice this E position because it is one of the better ones for the velocity of air.